Hello everyone, my name is Mario Tiozzo and I am the Data Analysis and Visualization Librarian here at UMB Libraries. Today we're going to take a look at how to visualize a dataset from the PISA data series that we will analyze further in the next video using linear regression. Later in this video, we will also look at how to visualize two distinct but related datasets. Okay, let's figure out what data series we are going to visualize. I'm using the Hong Kong 2022 dataset here. For this example, let's grab the ESCS variable in column AC. ESCS stands for Economic, Social, and Cultural Status, and the math scores in column N. We'll copy and paste them in a new sheet so we can work with them more easily. We can do this by going to the top of the column. Let's go to ESCS first. Control-Shift down to get the entire data series. Control-C to copy. Go to sheet 1 here at the top. Control-V to paste. Let's do the same thing for the math score. At the top, Control-Shift down, Control-C, and Control-V. Great. Now we have our working data series and we are ready to start working with our data. But before we do that, if we inspect the series a little, we notice that we have several 99 values in the ESCS column. If we look in the PISA codebook, we can determine that these are non-responders to the question. For this exercise, let's focus solely on those who responded. We can remove the non-responders quickly by filtering the data and removing all the rows that include 99 in the ESCS variable series. To do so, let's go back to the top. Let's highlight both data series. Let's go to the Data tab. I'm already on the Data tab. Let's click on the filter. Go to the very top. Now we have our filter. Let's filter only the 99 values. So let's deselect everything. Go to the very bottom and just select the 99 values. Press OK. We can go back to the Home tab. Now we can highlight all the 99 values. Press the Delete drop down. Delete sheet rows that we've highlighted. And now we can clear the filter. And we don't have any more 99 values here. We can check. No, 99 values are gone. Great. So let's try to visualize this relationship using the charting options in Excel. The first question is, what chart should we use? The scatter plot is a great way to display relationships between two variables. This can be interesting at the individual level, but it tends to be used to view how the entire dataset behaves and to note if there are any relationships therein. First, we'll select our data. In this case, let's select both ESCS score and the math score. It's important to keep your dependent variable, in this case the math scores, in the last column to let Excel know that this is where it is located. We go to the Insert tab, we click on the Scatter Plot drop-down menu, and let's pick the first option. All right, I'll bring this to the top here. Great. We have the skeleton of our scatter plot, but let's try to clean it up a little bit to make it more meaningful. This is looking like a bit of a mess right now, so let's start by adjusting the axes so that we get a better sense of the data. The y-axis labels are at the center of the chart where it intersects with the y-axis. But this makes it hard to see them, so let's move them to the left of the chart so that the viewers can get a better sense of the numbers. Let's right-click on the axis, Format Axis. That'll pop up the pane over here. Let's go to Labels, and instead of next to axis, let's say low, and that shifts it to the left. Great. While we're there, let's work on the bounds as well. 0 to 1000 seems about right, but let's make the jumps a little bit bigger. Instead of 100, let's move it to 250, so it's a little bit less cluttered. Great. And while we're at it, let's also work on the numbers. We don't need any decimals. We don't need that level of granularity, and let's put 1000 separator. Terrific. Let's also modify the x-axis. We do the same thing, right-click, Format Axis. In this case, we can check here. The minimum is -6 and the maximum is roughly 4. So we can alter our axis here to maybe -7 rather, and 4 here. And we will have bounds of 1. And in the numbers, we also don't need those decimal places. Great. That's already looking a little bit easier to understand. Now let's add elements that we wanted to include. Let's start by adding a trend line to this chart so that we see how the dataset behaves. If we click on the chart like so, you'll notice a plus sign next to it. When you click it, you can add and delete chart elements. Some versions of Excel, including those running on a Mac, won't see this plus sign. No problem, you can access the same commands by left-clicking on the chart again, and then going to Chart Design at the very top and Add Chart Elements. From there, you'll be able to add all the elements that you require, axis titles, trend lines, etc. So let's go to Trendline here, and let's go to Linear, click on that. It's important to note that a trend line is not the same as the line chart that we saw in an earlier video. A trend line is the line of best fit, which means it is a line that minimizes the space between it and all the data points in the series. In other words, not all the data points are on the trend line, whereas a line chart connects all the data points together. So we can see here from this trend line that it is upward sloping, which provides evidence that there is a positive association between the two variables. While we're at it, let's go to the trend line options here, more options. Click on the bar chart, and we'll add display equation of the chart and display the R-square value on the chart. You can see here that something's popped up. And this is the equation of the trend line as well as the R-squared. The R-squared explains how much of the model explains the variation of the dependent variable. In this case, how much does ESCS explain the math score? At 0.057, it only explains 5.7% of the variation of the math score, so not very much. Now that we have some direction on our message, let's work on our chart title. We can choose a generic title like Relationship of ESCS and Math Score Variables in the PISA 2022 Hong Kong data. But let's try to use a title that provides more information to the reader and highlights a point we are trying to make with this data visualization. Something like this. Okay, now that we have our title, let's also add axis titles. Go to the plus here, click on axis titles, and we can see that both axis titles have been incorporated in this chart. So over here, we can put math scores, and we can put ESCS at the bottom. And we spell it out that way, it ties in to the title, so it provides a little bit of context to the reader. Okay, now that we've added our elements, let's clean this up a little bit and remove any superfluous elements. We can go to the plus sign again, and we can remove grid lines. This will take off the horizontal and the vertical grid lines. We can right-click on a chart, format chart area. Let's also remove the border line. You can see that the y-axis line is still present. If you want to remove that, just right-click on the axis, format axis. You have to go to the fill bucket. In the line, we go no line. And now the line disappears. If you want to give a little bit more perspective on the individual data points, you could color fill them in a different color than the outline. So to do that, you click anywhere on the data set, the fill bucket, go to the marker section. You have a border, which is dark blue. So let's do a fill here. And instead of also having a dark blue fill, let's put some sort of baby blue or lighter blue fill. All right, I'll just move this down a little bit so it's not so close to the title. Great, that's looking pretty good. If we wanted to copy this, we could remove the grid lines by going to page layout and just removing the grid lines here. Click off the view. Now we have no more grid lines, and we can use our snipping tool to copy and paste into a Word document or a PowerPoint presentation. Okay, great. Let's quickly move on to creating a scatter plot when you have two data sets. I've already created the data sets. In this case, we have the same data series that we had before, but now it's segmented by gender. On the left-hand side, we have the female data set, and on the right-hand side, we have the male data set. Let's try to visualize this in a scatter plot, but in order to distinguish between the two data series, I'm just going to take the first 60 or so elements of each data series. Otherwise, the chart is going to feel pretty crowded, and it will be difficult to distinguish one series from the other. Let's select our first data set, in this case, female. So we'll take the first 60 or so. Same process as before, insert, scatter plot, and let's pick the first option. Great. Let's bring this up to the top. Great. Now let's introduce our second data set to this chart. To do so, let's right-click on a chart and choose the Select Data option. We have our first data series, the female data series, on the left-hand side, although it's misnamed Math, and we have the ESCS on the right-hand side. Let's quickly edit the first series, and you can see that it's picking up cell C1, which is Math, but let's just hard-code it female. Press OK. Everything else is fine with it. Now let's add our second data series, our male data series. Let's press add. The name of the data series in this case will be male. The X values will be the independent variables. So that's the ESCS score. So we took the first 60 rows for the female example. So we'll do the same thing here. And then the Y values would be the dependent variable. You'll notice that there's already something in there. It's important to highlight that and delete it. And then we can enter our math scores. Again, to the 60th row for consistency. And then we can press OK. Now we have our male and our female series. Press OK. We go back to the top. You can see that it's been incorporated in the chart. Now that we have both data sets, let's try to clean it up a little bit to make it more meaningful. Our data is a little squished at the top, so let's modify our axes in order to better view our data. The y-axis labels are at the center of the chart again, but this makes it hard to see, so let's move them to the left of the chart so that viewers can get a better sense of the numbers. Again, click on it, right-click, Format Axis. We go to Labels, and we'll go to Low. Great. Again, let's modify the numbers. We don't need any decimal points, 0. And even though we don't have anything over 1,000, let's just click on 1,000 separator, just in case a data set becomes dynamic and incorporates higher numbers than 900. We can see that there are no data points below 300. So let's start off the chart at 300. Great. 900 is good. And instead of bounds of 100, let's move it to 300. Great. Let's work on the x-axis now. We can put -3 here. And 2 is good, and bounds of 1 is perfect. What is not great is the decimal place of 4. We'll put that down to 0. That's looking a lot better. Now let's add elements that we want to include. Let's start by adding a trend line to this chart to see how the dataset behaves. We have 2 datasets, so we'll need 2 trend lines. We can click on one dataset, right-click on it, add trend line. Great, and we will add the equation and the R-square value of that. It's in the middle here, so let's move it down here. Since we'll end up having 2 equations, let's tag this a little bit better. Let's go inside here, press enter, and let's write male so that we know that this is the male information. I'll put this a little bit higher here for now. We can move it later if we need to. All right, so let's do the same thing for the female data set here now. You can see that when I click on it, all the blues get selected, and we can see that it highlights the female data series. Right click, add trend line. We have a second trend line, and let's add the equation and the R squared as well. Let's not put it in the middle of the action here. Let's put it down here. And again, just like we did in the first one, let's tag this one female. So we can see from these trend lines, they are both upward sloping, and that the female has a steeper slope than the male. And this gets picked up in the equation because the m value, or the number in front of the x, is higher in the female equation than the male equation. We also note that the female intercept is lower than the male intercept, and that the female model explains more of the variation of the dependent variable than the male model, as explained by the R-square values. All right, just like we did before, let's add axis titles as well. Go to the plus, click on axis titles. This one will be math scores. And ESCS at the bottom. Great. If we wanted to differentiate the 2 data sets other than by color, we can change their shapes. We can do this. Let's select one data series. Let's select the male data series. Right-click on it, Format Data Series. We go to the bucket, the marker, click on Marker Options. Instead of automatic, we click on Built-in. Now we have the opportunity to change the shape. Let's just change it to a triangle. And now we have orange triangles and blue dots. I like this because this makes it easier to distinguish between datasets, especially if the chart is printed in black and white. Now let's add a legend, since we have 2 variables and our viewers need to tell them apart. So again, we can click on the chart, the plus sign, legend. We see a legend on the right-hand side. I prefer to have it at the bottom, so I can click on the arrow here and go to bottom. Great. Don't really feel like we need the linear legend section, so I can click on those individual items and just delete. Terrific. Now that we've added our elements, let's clean this up a little bit and remove any extra elements. Let's remove the grid lines. We can click on a plus sign here and just remove both grid lines. We can remove the chart border, so we right click on the chart, format chart area, no lines on the border. Let's remove this axis as well, this axis line. Format axis, go to the fill bucket. We go no line. Terrific. Finally, let's just reshift our tags here so they're a little bit more visible. Actually, it's feeling a little bit squished. So I'm just gonna change my axis here, give ourselves a little bit more space. Let's move this to -4. This shifts everything over a little bit, which gives us a little bit more space here to include our text. Great. Finally, you would probably want to add a descriptive or informative title, but otherwise it's looking pretty good. Okay, I think that's it for today. We were able to create a scatter plot to depict the interplay between two variables with one dataset, as well as with two datasets. I hope that this was helpful. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye for now.